Hi, this is Dr. Frank Chopatini with the Church of Rational Truth. We're going to start off today like we do at the start of most months, and we're going to go over the finances for last month. Always exciting to talk about. We had a very good month in terms of donations in. We had a total of $5,598 worth of donations. We got $28.49 in passive income or investment income from our endowment. Of that, we're going to have $28.25 go towards the general endowment, which will probably be we'll be voting on this month in terms of where that money is going to be going towards. And our total endowment is up to $8,996.73. $8,942.85 is in the general fund. The church/library fund that is going to fund a physical library is up to $53.88. For full information, we do have posted on our website the finances with all the equities that we own. So if anybody wants to keep track of that, look at that, or just follow it as we update. Please, keep an eye on it. This week, since it is the first week, we will take any suggestions for things to vote on for the passive income. Usually, we've endowment and funding the physical things to vote on to where that money should go towards. Going on to the crux of today's topic, we're going to talk about risk-benefit analysis. And it seems like most people would think that's really boring. It sounds like something only people who deal with insurance or who deal with gambling have to deal with. But in reality, it's something that everybody has to deal with every day. Every decision we make has risk-benefit analysis, whether we actually think about it or not. A lot of people think that they just make decisions on impulse, and that might be true for a lot of people. But in reality, you should be using risk-benefit analysis at least to some extent when making things, because it helps us hopefully move towards a better and happier life. So first off, what is risk-benefit analysis? It is basically when looking at decision making or possibilities of actions, you go through all the possibilities of the actions, or even just one action at a time, and you try to determine what are the risks that are associated with it, what are the possible benefits, what are those outcomes, and what are the percentages. By doing that, you can get some sort of an idea of if that is a good decision or if that decision is better than any of the other decisions. What makes this difficult, and what we're trying to do when doing risk-benefit analysis, is trying to not only make the best decision possible, which sometimes is only theoretical, but it's to get a gauge or a way of mathematically not necessarily mathematically, but usually done if you're doing it more formally, mathematically finding a way of what is the potential benefit between different options in terms of a decision. Obviously, with gambling and insurance, actuarial work, it is far more literal. It is far more down to exact dollars and cents of what do we think this is going to cost? What is the benefit? In real life, most people, it's a lot more emotional. Like, what is going to make me more happy? What is the best thing? Should I go to college? Should I go straight to work? That's all risk-benefit analysis. And what we're trying to do with that is we're trying to not only make a good decision, but also to determine what is the risk, or what is going to be the best suited decision for our set of circumstances. And the reason we do this is because a lot of times it's not always simple. It's not always, oh, this is clearly the best solution. We have to try to take into account random chance. I have a lot of patients who I talk to, and a lot of them struggle with decision making because a lot of times even the best decisions don't end up with the best outcomes. And that is because of an inherent randomness in the world. Everything that we do has chance to it. If I go and drive my car to work, there's a certain chance I'm going to get to work. There's a certain chance I'm going to get hit by another car and die. I have to kind of analyze that and decide, hey, it's still worth going to work, even though there is that risk inherent. Even though the vast majority of cases, that's going to be absolutely the right decision, you don't know when is that one time where you're going to get hit by a car and it can end up very badly, despite seeming like the best decision. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to mitigate for, or trying to make a good decision despite that inherent risk or uncertainty that's involved in decision making. Most of my patients struggle because of that inherent unknown. A lot of times people can make really good decisions, but because there is unknown, or because all decisions carry some amount of risk, that that makes it difficult. Or a lot of times they second guess their decisions. They make a decision, they follow through on it, but because they get a bad outcome, let's say you save money, you buy a house, but then a tornado comes and destroys that house. You might not have made any poor decisions. They may have actually been statistically the best decisions to make, but because you had a bad outcome, that makes us go back and go, okay, did I make a wrong decision? Was I stupid? Was I wrong? Should I listen to somebody else? And that's hard for us to judge because we don't live infinite lives. We don't see all the potential outcomes. We only see one outcome. And a lot of times that can lead us to incorrect assumptions. If I made all the right decisions but got a bad outcome, I might then associate some of those decisions with being incorrect decisions. So a lot of times, like if I were to save money and then something were to come up and someone was to steal all the money out of my account, I might make the assumption that, well, maybe saving money isn't the best decision. Maybe I should stop doing that because of the risk involved. But the hard thing is, that's only one potential outcome. You don't know all the potential other outcomes, and you have to kind of say, well, what is the risk of something like that happening? And know that sometimes it will happen, sometimes it won't, and that even right decisions will have bad outcomes. The opposite is also true. Sometimes bad decisions end up with good outcomes. Sometimes people who are bad or who make terrible decisions, one example is playing the lottery. Statistically, if you're going to do risk benefit analysis, buying lottery tickets is probably a horrible decision. Usually the return on investment is very small. You're expected to only get about 50-ish cents back for every dollar you're spending on a lottery ticket. So it seems like this is going to be clearly losing. But even though the risk benefit analysis says you probably shouldn't do it, people do win the lottery. Someone is going to win that $1 billion or million, no, I don't know, $1 billion, but $100 million. Someone is going to actually win that. And even though it was a poor financial decision, the reason people play is because they see that one person who does win, and they can make the incorrect assumption that it might be beneficial, even though it is the wrong decision if you do the math or if you calculated it out. So that's what makes this hard. This is why people struggle. They go and they see what happens in the world. We only get a limited data set on our decisions. So that makes it really, really difficult, especially patients who have, or people who have had difficulties in the past, or if they've been proven wrong in the past, or people who would tell them that their decisions are wrong, or people who blame them for bad decision making. A lot of them will then struggle to make decisions because they're not sure of them. They don't know how to do risk benefit analysis on their own, or they've done their own and people have told them that it's wrong. And because the universe reinforces that, or a person reinforces that, then they believe it. And so then they don't do their own risk benefit analysis. I've had many people become very passive and just listen to either a significant other or a parent and have them make all the decisions because they'd rather not have that burden of the unknown. They would rather not have the burden of the person who makes the decision. So they'd rather have someone else do the risk benefit analysis and then just passively go along with whatever those decisions are. The bad thing is, other people don't necessarily have our best interests at heart. Many times people will take advantage and make you make the decisions that are not best for you, but possibly be making decisions that are best for them. This also goes into, why we end up hurting ourselves with a lot of things. A lot of times we make decisions based on immediate benefit rather than long-term benefit. We don't go 10, 20 years down the line because we don't see that. And our brain doesn't always weigh that as the same benefit. So the example I give with a lot of my patients, or why obesity is such a problem, is if we're given the option of having a cookie or not having a cookie, the most people are going to say, yeah, I'll have the cookie. I get to eat. I feel happy. I don't see any big negative to that. But the problem is, if you continue down that and continue taking a cookie, 10, 20 years down the line, you'll be obese, you'll have diabetes, you'll have problems with cholesterol, you'll probably die sooner. And we don't always calculate that in the right now decision. When we do our risk benefit analysis, most people, since they're not calculating it out and thinking about all these options, they're going to weigh that initial pleasure, that initial benefit much higher, and that might lead them to be making the wrong decisions. Our body is not necessarily made to do risk benefit analysis. Our body is made to cater to our emotions. It's catered to make us feel pleasure now. It's not one that can actually force us to make a better long-term decision. Many times it has to be a very active process. Many times we have to actually fight natural impulses to try and do that, because many times our natural impulses, our emotions are going to put us against what is necessarily best in the risk-benefit analysis. Let's get on to how do you do that. Sometimes it's as easy as doing the math. Some people might have taken a course on statistics, or some people might have experience with gambling and gambling returns. It is basically the most formal is finding a mathematical way of determining what the outcome is, what is the risk of getting that outcome, and what is the risk of not getting that outcome. So, for example, if I was going to flip a coin and get $1 for heads and lose $1 for tails, I do $1 times 50% is 0.5. Then I go, the other option is 0 times -1, or not 0, 0.5 times -1, which is that option, is -0.5. You add those all together and see, is it a positive or a negative? So for that one, it would be plus 0.5 plus a minus 0.5 is 0. So if you were to do the risk-benefit analysis of do I bet $1 on a coin flip, you would see that overall you'll end up with 0. It'll always end up being even, because the benefit and the risk are even in that situation. If I were to give you $2, but you were to lose $1, and you do the same calculation, you'll come out, oh yeah, I'm going to win $1 on average every time I make a decision. And that is the basis of risk-benefit analysis. The problem is most things are much more complicated than that. And most things aren't always necessarily based on a dollar or numerical value. In fact, most of our everyday decisions are, usually multifactorial. It's not, yes, I do this thing, or yes or no, I don't. Sometimes there's 15 or 30 different options that we have. And second, it's usually not just a numbers game or a financial game. Many times it's a happiness game. Like we have to do the am I going to be happier in my overall life game? And happiness really doesn't have a standard way of turning that into numbers. You can't always say, hey, how happy is eating this cookie going to be versus the long-term happiness of risking diabetes? Those aren't easy to put into numbers. You can try, and I'm sure lots of people actually will try and do these things, especially this is actuarial work. You try to put in healthy years of life into numbers. So that's why that's a lot more difficult. That's a lot harder to really set in stone. This is one of the reasons why I like people learning statistics, learning mathematics, and even one of the reasons I've talked before about gambling and why gambling in some situations might not be immoral. Gambling is really good at teaching you risk-benefit analysis, because really that is a direct application of risk-benefit analysis. You have to make a decision. That decision is going to have a certain amount of risk, which is usually calculatable down to 1,000 decimal places, and then it will have a certain return based on that risk. That is all what gambling is. And better gamblers, if we're going to be able to rank how good a gambler is, they will find the ones that have the least percentage loss or the least percentage risk and have the most theoretical gain. They're just doing risk-benefit analysis. The bad gamblers, people who are playing the lottery or playing bad things, they're not doing risk-benefit analysis. Or they're saying like the happiness of this really poor choice is worth doing, and so it's outweighing the financial negatives of something that has a really poor outcome. That's kind of why I don't necessarily push people against at least learning about gambling, not necessarily going out and gambling themselves, but at least kind of learn from that, because that can teach you decision making. That can teach you how to discriminate between two different options. Do I hold this? Do I hit this card? Do I bet on this number? And even though you don't necessarily might think it's moral or right, or you might think it's risky, it is a good exercise in risk-benefit analysis. If you learn from that, then you can hopefully take that into your everyday decision-making, where you say, hey, should I put my money into a mutual fund? Should I put my money in a stock? Should I put my money in in options, which is incredibly high risk but incredibly high return? Do I put my money in a savings account where it's incredibly low risk, but I'm going to get a tiny, tiny amount of money? You can then apply that to finances. You can apply that to dating. Am I going to go with someone who is wild and makes me very happy, but there's also a much bigger risk with that person in terms of being hurt emotionally or possibly being even hurt financially? Or do I go with someone who might be a little bit boring? I'm not going to have so much enjoyment. I'm not going to have so much happiness with that partner or person, with dating them, marrying them, whatnot. But also the other negative or the other positive is they're not going to be highly risky. I'm not going to subject myself to emotional torture. I'm not going to have those severe lows that I'm possibly going to have with the other person. And so risk benefit analysis can be brought out to almost any kind of decision making and really should be part of everybody's decision making. Whether it's something financial, happiness, or anything. So I would strongly suggest if you have more interest in risk benefit analysis, if you want to learn how to make better decisions or how to make decisions, to do some more research on the topic. If anybody does want us to do more lectures or talk more about this, or even give specific examples of how to do this, we'll be happy to, because I think it is a very good skill for everyone to have in life. I mean, this is something that I would want to teach children, youngsters, people very early on how to do this so they can apply it later in their lives and start early with making better decisions. That is going to be it for today. We will be back next week where we'll talk about what was proposed for potential voting topics for the passive income. And then we'll probably have another lecture on another topic. If you have any suggestions for future lectures, please let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for stopping by, and y'all have a great rest of your weekend and happy Labor Day. Bye-bye.